Hello and welcome to Who Dares Walls TV. I am your host Mike B, and here we are. Cheers, by the way. A cup of tea. Must need a cup of tea. So here we are at the final run of the my top 50. So here I'm going to run you through placings 10 down to 5. We're going to milk this one for a bit. It seems the thing to do. Just deal with it. So the 10 to 5. What are they going to be? I mean, there's been a lot beforehand. There's already a couple I thought of that I went, oh, I should have added them to the list, and I haven't. So maybe we'll do a nearly hits or the things I forgot about after this list is done. So all of that said and done, let's get into this top 10 or the first 5 of the top 10 now, I guess. So at number 10, although there's no specific order, but I'm just said the number now, so we're just going to say it. And number 10 is Dead of Winter from Plaid Hat Games. It's an older game now, a few years on. For me, it still stands as the high watermark of the zombie genre in board game form. There's a lot of zombie board games out there. Lots of them. Really is a lot of them. Not so many penguin ones. Maybe need zombie penguin board games. There's a few, but not as many as definitely as zombies. But yes, I've lost my thread entirely. So anyway, lots of them around. The zombie side, there's lots of them, just loads. Most of them, in fact, probably 90% of them miss the trick on the zombie theming, in that if you look at any George Romero's films, any of them, there's social commentaries to a certain extent, and most of the biggest issues in the zombie movie is not so much the zombies, it's the humans in it. Now there's only one other board game I can think of which I found surpassed by Dead of Winter, though some days I regret moving it on because it is good, is City of Horror. There was also Mall of Horror, very similar. And they were great, actually. A different style of game, but the same idea is that the humans were kind of the bigger issue. The zombies are an issue, a problem, certainly. A flesh-eating, cannibalistic, dead problem, but not something that isn't surmountable. You can deal with it. So, Dead of Winter, back to that. It introduced the crossroads system, which I thought was a great mechanism, which allowed you essentially you drew cards when certain parameters were met. Something would happen, maybe, possibly on a turn, and it would trigger a crossroads card, which would be an out-of-the-blue event, which would bring more characters into the game, changes the storyline, something would happen. Now, Dead of Winter, if you've not played it or are unaware of it, which it's a shame if that's the case, is a zombie apocalypse. It's set somewhere like I was in Canada, I think. It's definitely a cold Minnesotan type feel to it. And you're a bunch of ragtag survivors in this colony out there trying to survive against the hordes of the dead, and you're going out on little supply runs to the nearby town to pick up stuff, trying not to make too much noise doing it. Obviously zombies will be attracted to where you are, building your settlement up, having to feed your survivors. You've got this constant sort of to and fro, because during the game you will find more survivors. Some of them are playable, some of them are just more mouths to feed. And it's that whole debate amongst everyone around the table is, well, can we deal with this? Is our colony going to survive? And amongst all of this hodgepodge of all this melting pot of fun and games, is potentially a traitor who is there really just to see the world burn, essentially, but they're not good for the colony. So you've got this simmering tension of, why have they had this food? Why have they done that? People are stashing, hoarding goods for their own personal gain, because you've each got little missions of your own you have to complete, as well as the main survival of the colony. So there's all those little bits and pieces in there. Even if there isn't a traitor there, there's still this doubt and what people are doing. It's just it totally evokes, and it nails the zombie genre for me. It nails it. That is it. It's all about the humans around the table doing shitty human things to each other, and then the dead are just there, kind of this dread horde on running. But essentially they are dealable with if the humans can get their shit together and work together to solve the problem of surviving through this winter, and just stopping the dead getting in the colony. It's brilliant. I've had some fantastic games of it. It always ends up in carnage. Yeah, I don't know. I love the art. I love the design of it. It's wonderful art, but I can't remember the lady's name who did it now. She also did the Ashes card game with the stunning bits of art. There's a bunch of expansions, Dead of Winter. I've never played them. There was Dead of Winter, Dead of Night or something, which just added more survivors and some other stuff and bits and pieces, and kind of ramped up the zombies a bit more of a threat. Yeah. And then there was the Warring Colonies one, which allowed you, with your both of the base sets of Dead of Winter, you could play against 2 separate colonies, which kind of sounds cool, like a 12-player game or something stupid like that. which is definitely I've been tempted by. But let's go back to the roots. There's Dead of Winter, the basic Dead of Winter. The original Dead of Winter is a cracking game. Really is solid. Plaid Hat on the map. They've never quite met the success. You know, there was a lot of hints at the time when Dead of Winter came out of other further Crossroads games. And we've had a couple now. There's Gen 7, which I own. I've still not actually got to the table because the rulebook's a bit of a pig and it just kind of wasn't... felt a bit. I will play it at some point. It's a campaign, and it looks kind of cool, but it's not done good in the ratings. But we'll see. It's a sci-fi thing, but it's not what I thought they were going to make. And then they recently did the Forgotten Waters, which is more successful, taking that Crossroads system in with the app version and the Pirates, and that actually worked pretty well. It played very nicely. So who knows what's down the road? Maybe they're going to do something else. I know the Crossroads is a good system. I felt with Forgotten Waters, not to review Forgotten Waters because we're talking Dead of Winter, is that the cards, physical Crossroads cards not being physical was kind of, I don't know why it lost a little of its edge for me. But anyway, Dead of Winter is a solid zombie game. If you love zombie genre, if you love the George Romero movies, then that nails it. If you've never played it, get a chance to play it because it's a cracker. It's really interesting. I love a lot of the mechanisms what are going on it, and it looks gorgeous, and it tells an interesting, fun story every time you play that. So yeah, Dead of Winter is our number 10. Next up is Nemesis. Good old Nemesis from Awakened Realms. I was initially kind of with it because it had lots of reports of playtime being massively over-egged before it was on Kickstarter, so I kind of let it pass me by, which I ruefully regret. I've kind of corrected that issue, that judgment issue, with the lockdown Kickstarter. Anyway, Nemesis. It is, as we've got Lifeform, which is the Alien, the board game, Nemesis is kind of closer to Aliens, the board game, with a good dash of Alien in there. It's a cracking game of a bunch of guys waking up from their hypersleep. There's a deadly alien organism on your spaceship. You have to make sure the engines work, you have to make sure you're flying to the right destination, and then get into hypersleep capsule or escape by a pod. That's kind of the basic. Everyone's got this victory condition, except everyone's got slightly different ones. So again, there's that. It sows those seeds of doubt like Dead of Winter does. What I love about Nemesis is, initially, for probably 2/3 of the game, everyone is working quite closely together, or as best as you can tell are, to try and creep through the darkened corridors of the ship, activate the systems they need to, check things are working, get the ship on the right path, do all of that. And then at this 2/3 mark, when the countdown is starting and the self-destruct systems may be activated or the aliens are starting to kill people, shit's got real. You'll suddenly see human nature takes over, and it's all bets are off, and everyone is just fucking each other over left, right, and centre. And usually resulting, of course, at that point in time, whereas it was kind of a closely knit group and there was a chance of survival, everyone dies. But God, yeah, it's really good. It's really good. It is expensive. There has recently been a Kickstarter, and I know it's been drip feeding back into retail. If you love the Aliens movies and that sort of stuff, and a bit like Dead of Winter, that hidden sort of traitory type thing and all that sort of stuff, Nemesis is really fucking good. It looks gorgeous. The board and everything, the art and design is really cool. There's some really good mechanisms in there. There's this, as I say, this joyful glee in this wonderful thing. Everyone kind of working together and fighting against the aliens, and they're closing in, and then everyone suddenly they're stitching each other up. There's nothing more satisfying running off and leaving a teammate behind, shutting and locking an airflock between you and fuck you, and jumping into a life pod and launching yourself into the abyss of space, waving goodbye, not knowing that you're infected yourself and about to come to a sticky end. But yes, Nemesis, brilliant. Really tells a fantastic story, really thematic, really good fun, really a rollicking game every time you're going to play that. Never fails to disappoint. It is well worth the ravings it's got. I've already done videos on this, but yeah, it's a fucking cracker. Next up for that is Millennium Blades. Millennium Blades is one, I don't play it as often as I could because, oh my god, it will make your head explode. Millennium Blades essentially it's from Level 99 Games who pack their boxes full of stuff, and there's been multiple Millennium Blades expansions, but I don't own any of them because that base box is wedged with content. It is essentially a CCG simulator. It simulates like Magic the Gathering, the trading card scene of you buying blister packs, opening them and building decks and then going into tournaments. And it does it via some timed rounds where you're actually prepping for a tournament. There's you buying cards, you're buying packs to open them up, which you basically flip a card over. But there's a whole meta in the game, which is in there going on as well. There's a secondary market. It is a simulator for that TCG trading card games of like the days of Magic the Gathering, like when you've gone down the comic shop and bought your pack of cards. It is that. It is, but by God, it's a satisfying burn. The timed rounds really force you against the crunch to build that deck and for ready to play in the tournament, and that's satisfying as well. That tournament sequence, and it's really good to kind of deck building and this sort of meta is being pulled in and scoring points there. It's mental. It's mental. There's a point where you're playing it where you're just going, oh my God, my head's going to fucking explode. But it's such a lovely, warm, comforting feeling of that. It really makes you work it out, and you go through it. And when you successfully pull off that combo or get to win a tournament, it's brilliant. Brilliant. Millennium Blades. It's again another one which should be shouted out more. It's a cracking game. If you can find it, pick it up. It's that base, but you don't need the expansions. Never needed to, because there's a ton of stuff in there. Just be warned, there's bundles of notes in the game, so you're wadding bundles of cash around, actual paper money, but binding all that up when you first buy the game, oh my God, it takes forever. So just warn you in advance. That's Millennium Blades, level 99 games. God, I'd play that anytime anyone would put that on the table. Next up is Cosmic Encounter. Cosmic Encounter just is chaos in a board game box. If you don't know what it is, essentially you all play an aliens fighting over planets, looking to be whoever's going to be the victor. You can have cooperative wins, you can have competitive wins. Each of the aliens essentially breaks the game. It's by the guys who designed Dune. I would say the names, but it's gone out of my head. I know Peter Otker's one of them, I think. But yeah, Cosmic Encounter, back to that. Yeah, it's had a couple of iterations of it. Essentially, it's all the same stuff. The FFG have kind of part of the definitive set of that. I love it. It's got little flying saucer marshals. The components are really great. The fact that the aliens just break the game every time. And I've had some wonderful games of them, 5 or 6 player games of them, where you've got aliens switching out characters and there's just all sorts of unhandy cheaty-wee going on. And it's just brilliant. It's a real interactive game. It's a game that gets people on the table yelling and shouting and making deals and yeah, it's a cracking game. It's an old game, but it works so well, and it is chaos. It is chaos in a box. And some people maybe don't like it. I know Ben hates it in my group, which is a shame because I would play it every time we play if I could, but I know he will poo-poo it. But if you've got the right group around who can enjoy that level of carnage, then it's a keeper. It's a cracking game. I love it. Cosmic Encounter. Finally, for number 5, rounding out this list, I'm going to pick Risk Legacy. Now, Risk Legacy sits on this list more for anything else, just the experience of playing that game. It was the first proper legacy game to hit the market at the time when it came out, which was probably about 7 or so years ago, maybe longer now. I just kind of got back into board gaming. We'd played a lot of video games before. And then I was essentially trying to write a young adult sci-fi book, and I had a website for it. And then what happened in the space of a few months is I just started pulling up the old Hero Quest and all that. We started playing some of them. I thought they're kind of cool. Looked on the internet, and I could see there was some new board games. There was like this whole world that I was unaware of. I'd missed it entirely. It passed me by. I'd stopped my board game obsession kind of in the 90s, and that was kind of where we were at. There wasn't much at that point. But yeah, so anyway, Risk Legacy was the game we picked up as one of the early sort of modern board games that we got the group back together to play. Risk was something we played a lot of. We knew it, and it blew our minds. And I still think really Risk Legacy is definitely the high watermark. Aside from the pandemics, especially the first one, Risk Legacy is a stunning achievement. It works so well. It really does. Risk is a simple game. It works. Everything. It builds on the foundations of that. It tweaks everything in such a way that is interesting. The stuff that happens in there, the spoilers that happen in there, the stuff that is when it first happened was incredible. Just the experience around the table of being like, what? we had a lot of that going on. It was a thrill. It was one of those. It was like one of those TV series you just need to binge watch, that we just wanted to play again and again and again to see what the next bit of the story was, what was going to happen next, what was the new development. The way you changed the board up, it made Risk a really good game. Let's be clear, Risk isn't a great game, but Risk Legacy is a really great version of Risk. If you're going to play it, any Risk, play Risk Legacy. You get the Legacy experience and you get Risk, and it's a stonking game. Really loved it. Everything about it. We've in fact so much so that we had a second set and we played it again the second time. But yeah, it's not so easy to get these days, but if you can track down a copy of Risk Legacy, you will not be disappointed. It's one you can get non-gamers into as well, and they get the experience, the Legacy system, which I think by far is one of the greatest developments in board gaming for many years. Kudos to Rob Davio for coming up for it. For me personally, I love Legacy, and I love when games commit properly to the Legacy, that you're ripping cards up and you're altering the game permanently until every time you come back to it. Fascinating system, something amazing. But yeah, there we go. I got very excited. That is my top 5 of the top 5, not the bottom 5. Anyway, it's the first 5 in the top 10. That's that. Thanks for tuning in. I've been maybe. We will be coming back soon at some point in the not too distant future to go to the final 5 of my top 50 games. Maybe I'll mix it into a couple of videos just to really milk it out. Who knows? See what on a whim that will be. Well, thanks for tuning in. I've been Mike B. This has been Who Dares Rolls, and we'll catch up again soon. Adios.